Hey guys, Tyler Hooks here with J Concepts, and today we are going to take a second to talk about how to glue inserts to your wheels. This is something that can be really useful in both 10 scale and 8 scale off road racing, dirt oval, and most of the off road applications that we make racing tires for. So, what we've got here today are some two wheel drive front and rear smoothies. I'm going to be using these in dirt oval this weekend. And what we see a lot of times in dirt oval, but also in modified racing for off road, is the foam will actually shift sometimes. It'll move back and forth inside the wheel, and it won't stay centered. So, what you can do is you can actually glue the insert to the wheel itself. And what you can gain from that is stability, as well as in certain situations, you can actually gain corner speed. The tire itself isn't going to expand as much under acceleration. The insert's going to stay centered, and the tire itself will actually hit the insert and stop the tire itself from shifting over as well. So it's got a couple of different positive attributes that you could have. It does typically take away maybe just a little bit of traction, but like for example, this weekend, what I'm trying to do is gain corner speed and make the car more consistent because the grip is going to be really high where I'm going. So the goal here is to glue the insert and gain some consistency and have the tire maybe not swell so much. So I've got a front tire and I've got a rear tire. The way that I do the front tire, the way that I glue the insert on a front tire is the only thing that you're going to do this on is a front tire, whether it's two-wheel drive or four-wheel drive. And then the way that I do the rear tire is the same way that I would recommend doing an 8-scale buggy tire or an 8-scale truggy tire. So there's two different ways that I'm going to do it. And it's basically just has to do with the thickness of the foam and trying to get the different parts of the foam side to side to not shift. So with the front tire, what I'm going to do is I've put it on the wheel already. I'm going to get it centered where I want it. Basically where each of the ribs are inside the slots in the tire. And then we're going to just take a glue. I have the J Concepts medium glue here, 2043M. And what we found is that our medium and our thin glue tips work on these. So the 8124, which is the medium, will work, as well as the 8123. For this application, you really don't need that much glue, so I prefer using the smaller 8123 tip. So I'm going to take it, I'm going to lift the tire up, and on each of the ribs, I'm just going to place a small dab of glue. And I'm going to go all the way around the tire. Again, the front insert's not that wide, so I'm just going to do one dab of glue as I go around. And I'm trying to do it this way so that I don't glue in between the ribs because I don't want to deform the shape of the insert. I want the insert to stay nice and round. So once I get all the way around, it should be glued properly. Let it sit for a little while before we put the tire on. So we'll let that insert sit while I do the rear. And again, the rear is the same way. The way that I do this is the way that I would recommend doing it for truggy tires, or for 1/8 scale buggy tires, or even short course or stadium truck. So now we've got the insert on the tire centered where we want it. And what we're going to do is not going to focus on getting the glue in the center. Going to kind of get it more towards the side and do the same thing that I did for the front tire. Just one little dab of glue on each of the ribs. Trying to keep it out of the little valleys. We don't want to glue the valley itself to the wheel because we want the foam to stay its proper shape. Doesn't take a whole lot of glue. Obviously this glue is really strong and the insert's so porous that it kind of just picks it up pretty easy. So we've got all of that side. Then what we're going to do is flip it over and just do the same thing. So again, this is the same way I would do an 8-scale buggy tire, just basically a dab of glue on each side. Pretty simple stuff. Doesn't take that much glue. The more glue you use, the more of a chance you have of getting it into the valley in the insert and then having your insert not be the right shape, which defeats the purpose a little bit of what we're trying to do here. So now the rear insert is glued as well. While that one's drying, we'll shift back to the front. And then had a couple people ask, how do you get the tire on once you have it like this? And honestly, it's not as hard as you would think it is. You're going to take the tire, flip it inside out. Make sure that it's all nice. Then we'll take the insert, which we have on the wheel. We'll mash the tire up against it. And then we're just going to pull it through and around. It's not going to be perfect, but it's going to get you close enough to where you can get it on both sides and you can work it into the ridge inside the wheel. Then once you do that, you would just glue it up like you normally would. So the way that we've done this, the tire should keep the normal shape. It shouldn't actually change, how tall the tire is much, because the insert is glued in such a way that it's not actually changing the shape of the insert. It's just changing the fact that it's actually just glued to the wheel. And then, as I'm talking about in dirt oval, when you go into the corner and the tire typically shifts one direction, because the insert moves, the insert shouldn't move. So the tire itself should stay centered when you come off the track. It should still be in the same spot that it was when you started. So we'll show you one more time with the rear tire. Flip it inside out. Get it all nice and centered. Put it on the wheel over the insert. And we'll just flip it through. This one's not quite as good as the front one was, but go ahead and stick it over. Again, once you get to this point, you just glue it like you would any other tire. And again, what we're trying to achieve here is a little bit more consistency in the tire and the insert. The tire, especially when you're using really soft compounds like green or blue, but mostly green, you can actually get away with running the compound a lot longer when you glue the insert because the tire is not going to swell. So if you're getting to the point where it feels like you have too much traction, but you don't want to sacrifice the compound and go to a harder compound, you can often compensate by gluing the foam to the wheel, which will stop that swelling, will stop the shifting back and forth, and will make the tire feel a little bit more consistent. And again, we're going to be running silvers where I'm going to be at this weekend. So especially just turning left, I don't want the foam to shift in the tire. So I'm going to keep them all nice and centered by having them glued to the wheel. And it's not going to change the shape because of the way we glued it. We just glued it on each of the ridges and not in between, so that the insert keeps a nice shape and it keeps it really nice and round. In worst case scenario, if you do make a small snafu with that, or you get it glued not in the right spot, you can take an X-Acto and kind of pop it out before you glue the tire to the wheel, or even just like a 1.5 wrench or a small wrench, you can kind of pop the glue out. But again, yeah, pretty simple, pretty easy, nice way to gain some consistency, potentially gain a little bit of corner speed, and kind of just a nice tuning option to have in the box. Thank you for watching. Again, this is one of our J-Concepts videos trying to show some of the options you have with the J-Concepts tires. We'll be back soon with more information and more how-to videos, and we hope to see you at the track soon.